This video is all about how to start a bookkeeping business in 3 days. And yes, that might sound a little bit unrealistic. Would I totally recommend this? Maybe not, but I'm trying to speak to you guys that are drawing out the process for a long time, and maybe you need to be challenged just to get some of these steps done. And today we're going to be focusing on just opening the doors to your business and being ready to accept bookkeeping clients. The reason that I personally started a bookkeeping business 10 years ago is for 3 reasons. 1, because it's super flexible. 2, there's a high earning potential, so you can earn starting out like $40 an hour, and then you can go up to like $80 an hour or more. And number 3, it's not that hard to start. There's pretty low startup costs and you don't need tons of certifications. All right, so let's hop into day 1, what I would do if I was starting a business in 3 days. So on day 1, I would choose the business name, buy the website domain, and create the LLC. So for your business name, you're either the type of person who can decide this quickly, or you might spend days and days on this. So maybe you've thought of a few business names. I want you to just make a decision. So list all of your options, use a thesaurus if you're looking for different words, ask a couple of friends, and pick a name. You also might want to Google that name to make sure there's no other business that might be confused for your bookkeeping business. All right, number 2 is purchase a website domain. And I think the easiest way to do this is just through whatever web platform you're going to use. So when I first started out, I was using Wix to create my website, and now I use Squarespace. So for both of those, you pay an annual fee for them to host your website, and you can also get your domain name, your URL through that process as well. And there are definitely templates if you're a beginner. You don't necessarily have to create your whole website on day 1, but I just want you to make sure that domain name, that URL is reserved so that you have ownership of it. Number 3 is choose your business structure and register your business. I know this one feels really overwhelming, probably outside of your comfort zone, but I promise you, you can do it yourself if you just spend a little time and research. So the first step is to choose the business structure you want to create. Usually it's a sole proprietor or an LLC. When I started out, it was recommended I create an LLC because it keeps my business finances separate from my personal ones a little bit better. But of course, I'm not here to give you legal advice. And sometimes people confuse this LLC with a business license. So this LLC creation, the business creation, only has to be done once at the beginning of your business. Whereas in day 2, we're going to talk about licensing, like business license for your city, and usually you have to renew those each year. So back to the LLC, you need to visit your Secretary of State website for your state. And this is going to vary a little bit depending on the website, but somewhere there will be a link that says create a business, create an LLC. And the verbiage that's used when you're creating an LLC is file your articles of organization. So that sounds like complicated legalese, but really nowadays, for me, at least in Oregon, when I walked through the online process in Oregon of creating an LLC, as part of that process, my articles of organization were filed. And there will likely be a cost associated with this. For my state, it was $100. So this is going to require a little bit of research from you and a little bit of stick-to-itness, but that is a really good trait to have as a bookkeeper because you're constantly going to be coming across things that you need to research, that you need to figure out, that you're not going to know how to do. So you're going to build that muscle little by little. And of course, I need to mention that I do have a class that walks you through this whole process. So it's like a more in-depth version of this video. And in that class, I give you different tasks each week, and then you have your bookkeeping business set up in 30 days. And in there, I have a few more resources that are like state specific. So if you live in Alabama, this is probably how much it's going to cost. This is kind of how you do it, how you set up your LLC. So I try to make that class affordable. It's $150. The link is in my description box. You can also check out my website, FinePoints.biz, for lots more bookkeeper resources. My name is Morgan if you don't know me, and feel free to subscribe to this channel to get lots more bookkeeper info. All right, and before we move on to day 2, which is all about getting business licenses and getting an EIN, I want to talk a little bit about how much time will it take you to be ready to accept clients. And this of course depends a lot on how much bookkeeping knowledge you start out with when you are starting to open your business. So maybe you worked as a bookkeeper as part of your office job once, or maybe you helped out your mom's business with their bookkeeping. But in general, if you are working really hard to get clients, which we'll talk about in a second, I would say 3 to 6 months is when you can expect to have maybe 1 or 2 clients. And some people do do this much quicker, some people do it much more slowly. It depends a bit on what you're putting into it. And I will say there's no perfect order of things. Like you might go to different bookkeeper resources and someone says, don't start your website for a month. Someone else says, get a few clients and then create your LLC. Really, there's no perfect way to do it, but really I would just encourage you to not be plagued by indecision, but try to just keep taking small steps to move forward little by little. So that's kind of like the inspiration for this video. If you challenge yourself to get your bookkeeping business done in 3 days, you'll have a huge sense of accomplishment, and that will kind of snowball you into continuing to work on your bookkeeping business. So let me know in the comments what you think about that. If you think it is crazy to do it in 3 days, or if you think that some of these things should be in a different order, let me know what you think. Let's chat about it in the comments. And I do have a free checklist you can download with all this information, so check my description box for that. All right, let's go on to day 2. So let's look into any business licenses you need. So you need to check your city, your state, and your county. So go onto their website and see, if I just opened a business, do I need some kind of license? For me, my county and my state don't need one, but my city does. So that is another $100 that I pay every year to be in business, to have a license for business in my city. Next thing is get an EIN with the IRS. So get an employer identification number. And you are going to need this to file taxes and to open your business bank account, most likely. So this is another thing that sounds overwhelming, but it's super easy. It's totally free. You go to the IRS website. So in that free checklist download that I mentioned earlier, I'm pretty sure I have linked exactly where to go on the IRS website to get your EIN. And there used to be a little bit of a waiting period, but now online you can get it immediately. So go ahead and do that. It is like your social security number for your business, kind of. And the reason we did this today is because now you are going to open your business bank account. So you probably know that having a separate bank account is really important, so you can separate your personal finances from your business finances. What I did personally is I went into the bank where I did my personal banking and I just opened a separate business account, a checking and a savings. So now when I log in, I can just see all my accounts in one place. And I would recommend you put a little bit of like seed money in there. So take some of your personal money, transfer maybe like $400 into your new business bank account. That is considered an owner's contribution. And I actually have a video all about how to record startup costs within QuickBooks. So say you paid that $100 yesterday for your LLC, but you didn't yet have your bank account set up. So in QuickBooks, you can make a journal entry for that. But just to save yourself time in the future, just put a little bit of money, do an owner's contribution in there, and then you can start, like if you buy office supplies or if you buy yourself a new desk or something, all that's already coming through your business bank account. But I'll link that video in the description box. I think it's called like something like recording business startup costs. Now let's move on to day 3. In day 3, we're going to make some decisions that are going to set us up for success in the future of our business. So first of all, you need to pick a bookkeeping software. I recommend QuickBooks Online. This is the most common one, and so it's going to be the most familiar to people. Xero, spelled with an X, is another, like probably the second most common one. So once you pick your bookkeeping software, you most likely are going to want to learn a little bit more about it, again, depending on how much you already know. So for QuickBooks, a really good place to start that is free is the Pro Advisor certification. It is free for QuickBooks Online. I have a video all about how to find it and kind of how it all works, so you can watch that video after this one. So like I said, that's a free certification. As a bookkeeper, you're not required to have any specific certification. It's not a regulated field like a doctor has to have a certain amount of schooling, have to take certain tests, or even an accountant is like that. The bookkeeping field is not like that. As long as you're able to serve clients and do a good job, you are allowed to be a bookkeeper. And again, that can get a tad bit controversial, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. Number 3, decide if you need more training and exactly what you want to do. So there's a lot of bookkeeper trainings out there. I have, again, another video on it, and I have this big chart that's all color coded, and it like compares the prices and what you get for each training. So that's gonna be linked in my description box, of course. You've probably heard me say before that Bookkeeper Launch is my favorite if you want to invest in like an all-encompassing training that teaches you basically everything about how to run your bookkeeping business, how to get clients, and how to work with those clients. But if you're not in a position to pay for a more expensive class, you can do a lot of DIY training. That's basically what I did. I kind of started really small with a small client and then learned some, and then I kept springboarding my knowledge from one client to the next as I got new clients. And that can be a little bit intimidating and maybe not as efficient because you're kind of learning as you go, but it is a viable option. All right, and the last last thing we are going to do on day 3 is write yourself a marketing to-do list. So think about people in your network that you can contact and let them know that you're a bookkeeper. Maybe you have a goal of meeting with 3 people a week. Make sure you post it on your social media that you're now a bookkeeper and you're looking for clients. But you're gonna wanna have some kind of plan in place for marketing. And I have other free videos on this channel that talk about bookkeeper marketing, and I also have another course that you could pay for that is specifically on really robust marketing. So if you're feeling kind of stuck, I would encourage you to take this 3-day list as kind of a challenge and set a goal for yourself to complete these tasks. And no, in 3 days, I don't expect you to get a totally comprehensive to-do list of every single item for your bookkeeping business ever. There are more things that I did not talk about in this 10-minute video, but hopefully you can use this as motivation to get started, download that checklist, and then keep taking little steps every single week.